My wife wants a divorce because my mother bought a house for my sister. My name is Jordan Hale. And the day my mother bought my sister a house was the day my marriage fractured. Trust me, you'll regret skipping this story. So before you sit back and listen, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Ethan's Way. Now get in the mood to listen to the story because it might be the ultimate sweet revenge. The first thing I noticed when I walked through the front door was the silence. Not the usual silence, the kind you get after a long day, when both of you are tired and the TV hums in the background. No, this silence was the kind that hung like a loaded question. Samantha was in the kitchen, her back turned to me. Dinner was on the table, still steaming, but she hadn't touched her plate. The fork lay beside it unused. I dropped my keys into the ceramic bowl on the counter and braced for anything. She didn't say a word. I cleared my throat. Everything okay? She slowly turned around, her face blank, her lips tight. Her eyes, those told me everything. Disbelief, hurt, and something colder than anger. I saw the listing, she said. 3 bedrooms, newly renovated, big backyard. Just right for a little family. You must be thrilled for her. It took me a second to realize what she was talking about. My heart sank. You saw the house. I saw your mother's name on the deed, she replied, folding her arms. And your sister's name as the new owner. You didn't even think to tell me. I swallowed. It all happened fast. Mom called me yesterday, said she found something she wanted to do for Kayla. She wired the money and closed this morning. Samantha laughed, but it wasn't humor. She wired the money. Just like that. A whole house, and no one thought I might want to know. I tried to explain. It's just, she's always wanted to help Kayla out, you know that. After the divorce, she never bought us a house, Samantha cut in. Not even helped with a down payment, and we were drowning for years. I had no defense, because she was right. When Samantha and I first got married, we scraped every cent to buy our 2-bedroom condo. My mom offered furniture, a loan maybe, but a house? No, that wasn't on the table. It's not fair, I said, but it's not like I agreed to it behind your back. I was just caught in the middle. Her eyes locked onto mine. That's exactly the problem. You're always in the middle, Jordan, and I'm done living in the shadows of your family's priorities. She walked past me, her plate untouched, and disappeared into the bedroom. The door clicked shut, and just like that, dinner turned into a silent war. I sat at the table alone that night, staring at the steam curling from my food. My appetite was gone. My marriage, something I thought was solid, despite the usual rough patches, suddenly felt like a thread about to snap. I pulled out my phone, called Mom. Hey, you up? She answered cheerfully. Of course, just came back from the house. It's lovely, Kayla's going to be so happy. We signed everything today. It's all done. I hesitated. Mom, did you think about what this would look like to Sam? A pause, then a scoff. Oh, come on, Jordan. She always thinks everything's about her. This is just me helping your sister. She's been through so much. It's not a competition. It feels like one, I muttered. What? Nothing. Just, I gotta go. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My wife had gone to sleep curled on the far edge of the bed facing the wall. I didn't touch her, didn't try. I wanted to believe this would pass, that this was just a flare of jealousy or hurt pride. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about the house. It was about every time I had chosen to stay quiet. Every time I said, that's just how Mom is. Every time Samantha had to swallow resentment while I played diplomat. And now, the price of peacekeeping might be my marriage. By morning, the kitchen was empty. Samantha had already left for work. There was a note beside the coffee pot. Don't forget dinner with my parents this Friday, unless something else comes up. I stared at those last 6 words. Unless something else comes up. The sarcasm was cutting, but beneath it was a challenge. Are you going to show up for this marriage or keep pretending you're not choosing sides? I never wanted to choose. I thought being in the middle was safe. But what I didn't see was neutrality as a choice. And sometimes the middle is exactly where the destruction begins. The next few days felt like walking through a house wired with invisible landmines. Samantha wasn't yelling. That would have been easier. Instead, she gave me the kind of silence that said, I'm watching who you defend. I'm watching who you disappoint. She still did all the usual things, laundry, grocery lists, reminders on the fridge. But the warmth was gone. The sideways glance when I got home, the tight smile when I mentioned work, it was all colder than any storm we'd ever weathered before. I didn't know how to fix it. So, like a coward, I avoided the truth by going to the person who caused it. I drove to my mother's house on Saturday. Kayla's new place was just outside of town, but I couldn't stomach going there yet. Mom opened the door in her usual way, apron on wooden spoon in hand, something simmering behind her. The smell of chicken broth filled the house. "You look tired," she said. "Rough week." I stepped inside, trying not to sigh. You could say that. We sat in the breakfast nook. She poured tea like we were just catching up, like she hadn't upended my life 4 days ago. "Mom," I said carefully, "we need to talk about the house." She waved her hand. "Oh, come on, Jordan. Don't tell me she's still upset." "She's not just upset," I replied. "She's hurt. Deeply. You bought Kayla a house and didn't say a word to us. You knew what that would feel like to her." "She's overreacting," Mom said sharply. "I've helped you both in so many ways over the years. A few thousand here furniture babysitting. But never like this," I cut in. "Never a full house. And you know we struggled. When Sam and I were trying to buy our place, we nearly drowned in debt. You said you couldn't help more than a couch and a Costco membership." She narrowed her eyes. "Because you two insisted on doing everything your way. You never asked. Kayla let me in. She let me be a mother." That hit like a slap. What does that even mean? It means she didn't treat me like a burden or keep me at arm's length. I stood up. My pulse throbbed in my temples. "So you're saying Samantha deserved less because she has boundaries?" Mom stood too, defiant. "I'm saying you're my son and you're letting your wife poison you against your own family. That's what I'm saying." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You don't see it," I said. "You've always had a blind spot for Kayla. She makes a mess, you clean it. She fails, you throw her a lifeline. But when Samantha succeeds, you resent it. You make it seem like she took something from you." She looked like she was about to argue, but then her expression softened, just for a second. "You think I don't notice," she said. "Every time we're all together, how she pulls you aside when she disagrees with me. How she questions everything I say. She never liked me. Jordan, she never wanted me close." I took a deep breath. She never wanted a competition. That landed. I saw something in her face crack. Later that night, Samantha came home from work late. She dropped her purse by the couch and went straight to the bedroom. I followed. "I saw my mom," I said. "Told her how you felt. Told her she crossed a line." She didn't say anything at first, just changed into a t-shirt and sat at the edge of the bed. Did she agree? "No," I admitted. She doubled down, said you never wanted her around. Samantha let out a tired breath. "I didn't want her over everything. There's a difference." "I know," I said quietly, "and I'm sorry I didn't protect us from that sooner." She looked up. Her voice wavered a little. "Jordan, this isn't about the money. You know that, right?" "I do now." She finally met my eyes. "It's about loyalty. It's about how I've spent 10 years defending our marriage, from whispers, from judgments from your sister, calling me controlling behind my back, and you just let it happen because it was easier than confronting them." That cut deep because it was true. I had let things slide, over and over. The backhanded comments, the dismissive glances at family dinners, the jokes about Samantha being too organized or too career-focused. I thought I was keeping the peace, but what I was really doing was letting her fight alone. Later, after she fell asleep, I sat on the balcony watching the city lights blink like tired eyes. I thought about my mom, about how love from her always came with strings wrapped in judgment, encoded in "I know what's best." I thought about my sister Kayla, how she smiled like life owed her kindness, how she always ended up safe no matter the damage she caused. And I thought about Samantha, the woman who stood by me when I was laid off, who took on overtime when I wanted to start my own business, who kept showing up even when I didn't fight hard enough to keep her from being wounded. Now she was slipping through my fingers, and all I had to offer was the truth, that maybe for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to choose what was easy. I was going to choose her. Even if it meant burning bridges I should have torched years ago. Sunday morning came, with the stillness of a waiting room, quiet, tense, and thick with everything unsaid. Samantha brewed coffee like usual, measured 2 scoops for herself, 1 for me. She still did those small routines, but I could feel how distant she was behind them. It was like watching someone live in a house they already mentally moved out of. I tried to pretend everything was fine. I asked about her sleep. She gave me a nod. I asked about her parents if we were still on for dinner next week. She shrugged. Eventually I gave up pretending. "We need to talk," I said. She sat at the dining table, mug in hand, waiting. "I know what you're thinking," I began, "that I'll defend her again, that I'll try to explain this away like it's just a misunderstanding. But I'm not anymore." Samantha said nothing, but her eyes flicked up just once. I should have said something years ago, I continued, when she mocked your job or when Kayla called you uptight at dinner and I laughed it off. I thought I was keeping the peace, but what I was doing was betraying you in a slow, silent way. Samantha looked away, blinking quickly. I'm tired of being the guy who always tries to play the middle, I added, because the middle isn't neutral, it's just comfortable, for me. That's when she spoke. Her voice was level but sharp. You're saying all the right things now, but Jordan, you let this go on for 10 years. How do I know next time won't be the same? I sat down across from her, my hands clenched under the table. You don't, and I can't promise I won't screw things up again, but I can promise that I see it now. I see what I didn't want to see. A long silence stretched between us. Then she said something I didn't expect. Do you know why this hurts so much? I shook my head. It's not just the house, she said softly. It's the fact that you didn't even tell me. You didn't think I should warn Samantha. She's going to feel betrayed. You didn't prepare me. You didn't protect me. Those words hit harder than anything else. Because she was right again. I didn't think. I didn't act. I reacted late and clumsy and expected her to just understand. Later that afternoon, I found myself pacing the hallway outside our bedroom. I wanted to make it right. I needed to. But Samantha had disappeared behind her laptop, diving into work emails and noise-canceling headphones. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went into our shared photo archive, the dusty Google Drive folder we hadn't touched in years. There we were, laughing in a camping tent in Big Sur, crammed into our first apartment, painting the walls off-white. Samantha holding a coffee mug that said future CEO, grinning on the day she got promoted. Memories. Proof that love existed once. Proof that I'd forgotten how much we built not because of help, but in spite of what we never had. I copied one photo and texted it to her. I remember this version of us. I want to find our way back. She didn't reply right away, but an hour later she placed her phone face down on the kitchen counter and said, without looking up, I have something to show you. She led me into the study, pulled open the second drawer in her desk. Inside was a manila folder. She handed it to me. Inside a printed draft of a divorce letter, dated 2 weeks ago. My stomach dropped. It's not signed, she said quickly. I wrote it when I realized I didn't want to be in a marriage where I constantly felt second place. I looked at the paper, her neat handwriting on the margin notes. The way she used words like disconnected, unseen, and isolated. I couldn't speak. I didn't file it, she said quieter now, because I was still hoping you'd choose me. I nodded slowly, swallowing hard. I do. From now on, I do. She looked up at me, eyes glossy but face composed. I need more than words, Jordan. I know, I said, and you'll have them, but not just words, action. That night I texted my mom, I need space. Don't visit, don't call. I'll reach out when I'm ready. She sent back a question mark, then a single line. So she finally made you choose? I didn't reply, because it wasn't her choice to make. It was mine. And for the first time, I wasn't choosing comfort. I wasn't choosing peace. I was choosing truth, even if it hurt. Even if it cost me the relationship with my mother. Because when it comes down to it, you can't build a marriage on diplomacy. You build it by standing beside the person you said you'd never leave behind, even when that means turning your back on the people who thought they owned your loyalty. If you were in this situation, would you forgive or take revenge? Comment below to let us know. The next weekend, Kayla invited us to see the new house. She sent the message in our family group chat like nothing had happened. Official housewarming BBQ Saturday at 2 p.m. Bring drinks. Samantha saw the message pop up on my phone as we were watching a movie. She said nothing, but I saw the flicker in her jaw, that tight little twitch she gets when she's holding something in. I didn't answer the message right away, but Kayla followed up later that night. You and Sam are coming, right? Mom already planned the guest list. It's gonna be nice. I stared at the screen. Everything in me wanted to avoid it. Just one more skipped confrontation. One more weekend of pretending nothing happened. But I had made a decision, and I wasn't going to be the man who folded when things got uncomfortable. Saturday arrived with the kind of sunshine that felt performative, like even the weather was mocking how fake this all was. We pulled up to the new house. White trim, landscaped yard, the kind of open porch Kayla used to complain about never having. Now she had one, fully funded by Mom. Samantha was stiff beside me in the passenger seat. If you want to go in alone, she said, I'll understand. I shook my head. No. If I go in, you go in. If you stay, I stay. We're in this together now. She looked at me, then really looked, and something softened in her eyes. I don't want to fight, she said, But I won't be invisible either. You won't be, I promised. The moment we stepped into the yard, I felt it, that artificial joy that some families perfect. Laughter just a little too loud, hugs just a little too tight, compliments that tasted like vinegar. My mother greeted us with a forced smile. Jordan, Samantha, so glad you could come. Kayla was all teeth. Isn't it amazing? I can't believe it's finally mine. Samantha nodded politely. It's beautiful. That was all, short, controlled, civil. We made our way to the back where people were already gathered. Friends, cousins, a few neighbors. The grill was going. Beer was flowing. The kind of celebration that pretends it was earned, not gifted. I watched my mother move through the crowd, beaming. She looked proud not of Kayla, but of herself. And I realized in that moment it was never about the house. It was about legacy, control, showing the world she could still make things happen. And maybe, just maybe, that she could still control me too. Later, while Samantha chatted with one of the cousins, I stepped away. I found Kayla alone in the kitchen pouring drinks. She looked up and smirked. You're quiet today. I kept my voice level. Kayla, can I ask you something? She shrugged. Shoot. Why the rush with this house? Why now? She raised an eyebrow. Why not? I needed a place. Mom offered. What's the big deal? I didn't answer. I just watched her. She hesitated, then added, Look, I know Sam's upset, but this isn't about her. She always acts like she's the only one who had it hard. That's not fair, I said. Isn't it? Kayla challenged. You two act like you built your whole life alone. But Mom offered to help. You guys were too proud to accept. That's not on her. I let that sit for a second. She didn't offer like this, I said. Not a whole house. Not without strings. And you know it. Kayla paused. Her fingers tightened around the glass. I needed to win something, she finally admitted. You always had the stable life, the job, the relationship, the respect. I just wanted one thing that made me feel like I mattered more. There it was, the truth. This wasn't a gift, it was a competition, a scoreboard. And Mom had happily played along. Back in the yard, Samantha was by herself again. People weren't avoiding her exactly, but they weren't engaging either. I walked over and took her hand. Loud enough for nearby ears, I said this was a mistake. She looked at me surprised. You sure? I nodded. Yeah, I don't want to play pretend anymore. We left the party 30 minutes early. No big announcement, no dramatic exit, just a quiet refusal to perform. That night, I sat on the bed while Samantha changed into pajamas. I think I finally get it, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Mom didn't buy Kayla a house to help her. She did it to send a message, and Kayla accepted it for the same reason. But I'm not part of that message anymore. Samantha crawled into bed beside me. What are you part of, then? She asked gently. I took her hand. Us. The tension didn't vanish overnight. Just because I'd made a choice didn't mean the damage was magically repaired. If anything, it made the air heavier for a while, the kind of heaviness that comes when people are waiting to see if your actions match your words. Samantha gave me space, but not trust, not yet, and she was right to be cautious. The real test came the following week. It was a Thursday evening. We were both home early for once, eating takeout on the couch, half watching something neither of us cared about. That's when she said it. She needs to apologize. I blinked. Your mom. She shook her head slowly. No, your mom, to me, directly. I set my container down. That might be impossible, I said honestly. You know how she is. She turned toward me. Her voice didn't rise. If anything, it got quieter, which always made it worse. I know how she is, Jordan. I want to know how you are. I looked at her, searching for what she really meant. I've forgiven a lot, she continued, but this isn't about forgiveness anymore. This is about respect. If your mother can't even acknowledge the hurt she's caused, then how do we move forward? How do I exist in your life without feeling erased? It wasn't a threat, not exactly, but it was a boundary, a clear line in the sand, and I realized this wasn't her giving me an ultimatum. This was her saying, I will no longer live a life where I don't matter, and if I couldn't support that, then maybe I didn't deserve her at all. The next day, I called my mother. Not a text, not a polite check-in, a call. She answered with a sigh. Finally, I was beginning to wonder if you still had a phone. I need to talk to you, I said flatly. About Samantha, about everything. Her tone immediately shifted. If this is about the house again, Jordan. It is, I cut in. But not the house. The disrespect, the fact that you completely ignored how this would make her feel, and instead of apologizing, you doubled down. Silence. Then, so she's making you do this? No, I said, I'm doing this. Because I've been complicit for too long. I didn't defend her. I let things slide. I stayed neutral, which was really just being a coward. And I'm not doing it anymore. She laughed bitterly. So what, you want me to call her and beg for forgiveness? No, I said, calm but firm. I want you to apologize. Because it's the right thing to do. Because you crossed a line. And if you can't see that, then maybe it's better if we take a longer break. The words surprised even me. But once they were out, I felt lighter, stronger. My mother said nothing for a long time. Then she muttered, I'll think about it. I didn't beg, I didn't press, I just said okay and hung up. That night, I told Samantha about the call. She didn't smile, didn't hug me, but she did something better. She reached across the table, took my hand and held it. No words, just presence. It was the most peace I'd felt in weeks. 2 days later, we got the call. It was my mom. Is Samantha home? She asked. She is, I said cautiously. I'd like to speak with her, if she's willing. I handed the phone over, slowly watching Samantha's expression in the entire time. She hesitated for a moment, then took it. Hello? I stepped out of the room, but I could still hear her voice, calm, measured, polite. Then quiet. Then a soft, thank you. A long pause, and finally she said, I appreciate that, and hung up. When I came back in, she was staring at the phone like it had spoken a language she didn't expect to understand. She apologized, I asked. Samantha nodded slowly. She said, she never realized how deep it went, that she thought I was just cold, not hurt. She said she doesn't expect forgiveness, just a second chance. I raised an eyebrow, and Samantha gave a tired smile. I told her it's not about second chances, it's about starting over and knowing that this time I won't stay silent. That night, I held her closer than I had in weeks. It wasn't over, but it was the first time I believed we had a real shot. Because love without respect is survival. But love with truth, that's where rebuilding begins. I didn't expect the family dinner to go well, I just hoped it wouldn't blow up. Samantha's parents had invited us over a month ago before any of this erupted. We'd RSVP'd long before the house drama. Now it felt like walking into a room full of mirrors, each one reflecting a version of me I wasn't proud of. We showed up 15 minutes early. Samantha brought wine. I brought apologies in my chest I wasn't sure anyone would ask for or want. Her dad opened the door with a stiff nod, his usual way. Her mom smiled and pulled Samantha into a hug, then gave me a quick glance. Dinner was roast beef, mashed potatoes, and that quiet tension only families can generate, polite on the surface, volcanic underneath. About halfway through the meal, her dad cleared his throat and said, "Heard there was a new house in the family." Samantha looked at me. Her expression said, "Do not deflect." So I didn't. "Yeah," I said, "my mom bought my sister a house." Her dad raised an eyebrow. "Must be nice." Samantha's mom chimed in. "How did that make you feel, Sam?" Now it was Samantha's turn not to deflect. She placed her fork down gently and said, "Like I'd spent a decade investing in a family that never really accepted me. Like I was tolerated, not embraced." Silence. Then her father looked at me and said something I didn't expect. "You know I wasn't sure about you when you started dating her. Not because you weren't a good guy, you are, but because you came from a family that looked down on ours. Quietly, subtly. Like they were doing us a favor by letting you marry up." My jaw tightened. I know I said, and I let it happen. I didn't push back hard enough. I thought being neutral made me strong. Turns out it just made me passive. Samantha's mom gave me a long look, then nodded once. "That's the first honest thing I've heard from you in a while." Later that evening, Samantha and I stood in the kitchen while her mom wrapped leftovers. You know, her mom said, not looking up, "It's okay to leave people who don't love your wife the way you do." I blinked. I know. Then don't just say it. Live it. Back in the car, Samantha was quiet for a long stretch. Then she said, "They've always been protective, but tonight, I think they saw you trying, really trying." I nodded. I'm done hiding behind excuses. She turned toward me, serious now. "Then prove it. Let's have them all over. Here, my parents, your mom, your sister if she dares." I nearly slammed the brakes. "You want a dinner with everyone together." She gave a sly smile. "Let's see what honesty tastes like across the dining table." I spent the next few days dreading what I started to call the summit. We sent out invitations, text messages really, but they carried weight. Mom replied, "Of course, looking forward." Kayla sent a heart emoji. Samantha's parents simply said, "We'll be there." I had no idea what was going to happen, but I knew one thing. This was it. No more separate worlds. No more quiet suffering. Everyone was coming to the same table. The question was, who would survive it? We set the dinner for Friday at 7 p.m. All week I moved like a man walking toward a cliff he built himself. I cooked cleaned, organized seating. Samantha picked the menu, something comforting, neutral, hard to criticize: lasagna, salad, garlic bread. Wine on the side. We weren't here to impress. We were here to lay it all bare. The hour before people arrived, Samantha stood in the hallway mirror, adjusting her earrings. "You sure about this?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. "Then I'm sure I won't hold my tongue this time." That was enough for me. The doorbell rang at 6:57, right on cue. Samantha's parents arrived first, her mom with a citrus pie in hand, her dad already scanning the room like a war general. Then Kayla arrived, alone, in a pale pink dress that screamed harmless, with a wine bottle she didn't buy and a smile she didn't mean. She hugged me like nothing ever happened. "Big bro," she chirped. "Smells amazing in here." Then finally my mother. Hair done, jewelry subtle but sharp. She walked in with the air of a guest of honor rather than a woman whose choices had almost shattered my marriage. The greetings were polite, too polite. We all sat down, and for 10 minutes it was small talk, weather, work. Someone mentioned a new Netflix show. Samantha poured wine with steady hands, but I could see the strain in her knuckles. Then Kayla, because of course it was Kayla, said, "Can I just say how nice it is that we're all doing this? It's important for families to come together, no matter how sensitive things have been." Samantha placed her glass down gently. "Is that what you call it? Sensitive?" Kayla blinked. "I didn't mean anything by it." "I'm sure you didn't," Samantha replied, voice calm. "That's sort of the problem." The table froze. I glanced at my mother, who looked ready to intervene, but for once she didn't. "I think we should talk," I said, "all of us, about what happened, about what we allowed to happen." My mom sighed. "Jordan, we've apologized." "No," I said, "you apologize to me. But this isn't about me. This is about Samantha." All eyes turned to her. She didn't flinch. "I don't need apologies for the sake of closure," she said. "I need recognition. I've spent years pretending not to notice the way I've been sidelined, ignored, dismissed. Every snide comment, every backhanded compliment, every time my name was left off a group chat or my opinion was skipped in a conversation." My mother stiffened. "I never meant—" "But you did," Samantha cut in, "even if you didn't realize it. And when you bought Kayla a house without even mentioning it to us, it confirmed everything I've been afraid to say out loud." Kayla scoffed. "It was a gift, not a weapon." "It was leverage," Samantha said, "and you knew it." Kayla opened her mouth again, but I raised a hand. "Stop." Everyone turned to me. "This is the first time I've seen it all clearly," I said, "and I hate what I see. A family that plays favorites, a brother who watched it all and said nothing, a mother who equated love with control, and a sister who took advantage of it." Kayla frowned. "That's not fair." "It's not about fair," I snapped. "It's about truth. And the truth is, I failed Samantha more than anyone else in this room ever could, because I stayed silent." Samantha's parents watched quietly, her mother's eyes wet, her father nodding ever so slightly. My mom finally spoke. "I was just trying to help Kayla." "I know," I said, "but you hurt us in the process, and if this family is going to survive, we have to stop pretending love can only go one direction." The room fell silent again. Then, to my shock, my mother turned to Samantha. I didn't understand what you were carrying. I thought you were distant because you didn't like me. I didn't realize you were trying to protect yourself." Samantha's eyes didn't soften, but they held steady. "I was trying to protect us," she said. "Jordan and I, the life we built, the home we fought for." "I'm sorry," my mother said. Quiet, real. The first time it didn't feel rehearsed. And then Kayla. She looked down at her lap. "I guess I wanted to win something for once, but I didn't realize I was taking it from you." Samantha sat back in her chair. "Now you do." That was all. We finished dinner in peace. Not warmth, not yet, but peace. A fragile, uncomfortable peace that comes when everyone finally stops lying to themselves. After everyone left, Samantha stood at the sink rinsing plates. I walked up behind her, touched her shoulder. "You were amazing," I whispered. She didn't turn around, but she said, "Next time you choose silence, remember tonight." I nodded. "I will." Because silence wasn't neutral, it was surrender, and I wasn't surrendering again. 2 weeks after the dinner, the house felt different. Not louder, not busier, just lighter. Samantha moved through rooms with a kind of calm I hadn't seen in months, not pretending everything was okay, not holding back, just existing fully. We weren't healed, but something had shifted. We had finally said the things that needed to be said, not to destroy, but to rebuild. Then came the next ripple. I was sitting on the couch one evening, sifting through work emails when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Kayla. Kayla, hey, can I talk to you privately? It's about the house. I sighed. I already knew this wouldn't be easy. I replied, sure, tomorrow night, just you and me. I didn't tell Samantha right away. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because I needed to understand it first. We met at a coffee shop near the park where we used to hang out as kids. Kayla showed up wearing oversized sunglasses like she was shielding herself from more than just sunlight. She sat down across from me and fiddled with her cup for a full minute before speaking. I'm thinking of selling the house, she said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. What? Why? She didn't look at me. Because I realized it wasn't a gift, it was a symbol, and I don't want to live inside a symbol anymore. I let the silence stretch waiting. Kayla continued, I talked to Mom after that dinner, and for once, she didn't defend herself. She actually listened. It freaked me out. I smirked. You're telling me? She smiled faintly. I always thought she loved you more, that she saw you as the one who got it right. I wanted something to make her proud of me for once. She is proud of you, Kayla, in her own warped way, I said. But you shouldn't have to prove it by hurting others. She nodded, then looked up. I'm not returning the house, that ship sailed. But I want to sell it downsize, use the money to start something real. Something I actually build myself. I nodded slowly. That's fair. I guess I just wanted you to know, and to say sorry again. Her voice cracked a little. You were always the big brother I looked up to. But sometimes, it felt like you forgot I was even trying. That one caught me off guard. I looked at her, this woman I thought I knew who had always seemed so selfish, so entitled, and saw something different, something honest. I'm sorry too, I said, for checking out, for not calling things what they were, for letting you and Mom drag Sam through hell while I stayed quiet. Kayla exhaled. We really were a mess, huh? I nodded, but maybe we're finally waking up. That night, I told Samantha about the meeting. Everything, even the parts I wasn't proud of. She listened, arms crossed at first, then slowly relaxed. She's really selling it, she asked. I nodded. She wants to start over, on her own terms. Samantha looked thoughtful, then said, that's the first adult decision I've heard from her in years. She paused. Good. Let her finally carry her own weight. Days turned into weeks. I reconnected with Samantha in small, quiet ways, making breakfast before she woke up, leaving her notes in her planner, showing up for every plan, every dinner, every chance to rebuild trust. And bit by bit she met me halfway, not with grand forgiveness, but with presence. She started laughing more, touching my hand without hesitation, sitting closer at night. One evening, she leaned on my shoulder and whispered, I didn't think we'd survive this. I kissed her temple. Neither did I, but maybe it took almost losing everything to finally figure out how to protect it. Then one afternoon I got an unexpected call from a lawyer, not mine, my mother's. Mr. Hale, I'm reaching out on behalf of your mother. She'd like to update her estate. She asked to add your wife's name as a co-beneficiary on several assets, including a home she plans to leave behind. I was stunned. That wasn't just an apology. That was a shift in power. That was recognition. I told Samantha that night. She sat in silence, wide-eyed. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I did. She sees you now. It was a quiet Sunday when Samantha and I drove past Kayla's house, the house. There was a for sale sign planted in the front yard now. It stood tall and glossy, reflecting the afternoon sun. The yard had been cleaned up, the porch repainted. The whole place looked staged like it had been scrubbed of its history. Samantha stared at it as we rolled by, then said, She's really doing it. Yeah. I nodded. She texted me last night. Says she's moving into a rental closer to her office downtown. Smaller place. Said she doesn't want to live off anyone's legacy anymore. Samantha was quiet for a few seconds. She's got a long way to go, but that's a start. I smiled. Sounds familiar. She gave me a sideways look. Oh no, don't lump me in with her. I didn't destroy anyone's marriage. I chuckled. Fair. But then she added something softer, quieter. You're right, though. We're all trying to start over in our own ways. That night we had dinner alone. Just the two of us. No tension, no rehearsed conversations. We talked about mundane things, work, stress, an upcoming trip. We hadn't planned yet a new cafe opening up nearby. Then she looked at me and asked, "Do you still think about it?" The moment everything cracked, I nodded slowly. "Yeah, all the time." I replay it, the look on your face, the silence, the moment I realized how far I drifted without noticing. She leaned back in her chair. "I think what scared me most wasn't that you didn't stand up for me. It was that I didn't expect you to anymore." I swallowed hard. "You should have." "I do now," she said simply. That sentence, those 4 words, held more weight than any I'd heard in weeks. "I do now." Later that week, I met my mom for coffee, just the two of us. She looked tired, like the emotional weight of the past few months had finally settled on her shoulders. "I wanted to talk," she said. "Not about the will or the house, just you and me." I nodded. "I know I've been hard," she said. "Hard on you, hard on Sam. I never realized how much I demanded from everyone around me. I just thought I was helping." "I know," I said, "but you were helping on your terms. And when people didn't match your idea of gratitude, you took it personally." She looked down at her cup. "It's hard watching your children grow into people who don't need you." I put a hand on hers. "We needed you. We just needed support, not control." She blinked back tears. "I'm trying, Jordan. I really am." "I know," I said. "So am I." At home, Samantha asked me how it went. "Better than I thought," I said. "Harder than I hoped. But honest." She smiled. "Honest is enough." That weekend, we finally did something we'd been putting off for years. We planted a tree in our backyard. It was small, delicate, the kind that would take years to grow into something meaningful. As we dug the hole together, Samantha said, "You know, for years I thought we were just surviving. You, me, the house, it felt like a glass shell. One crack and it would all fall apart." I stopped digging and looked at her. "And now," she smoothed the soil with her hands, "now it feels like we're building again. On soil we finally turned over. The rot's out, the roots can breathe." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The truth was in the earth between us, and the silence this time was full of peace. It had been months since the house incident, and in that time the dust had settled. But peace, I've learned, is not just the absence of conflict. It's the quiet test of whether the ground beneath you will hold if the storms return. And one did. It started with a knock on the door. I was on the couch reading emails. Samantha was folding laundry upstairs. When I opened the door, I wasn't expecting to see my sister standing there, visibly shaken, clutching a thick manila envelope to her chest. "Hey," she said, eyes darting past me like she was afraid of being seen. "Can I come in?" I let her in. Kayla dropped onto the living room couch and exhaled hard. She looked pale, as if something had been chasing her, not physically, but emotionally. "What's going on?" I asked. She handed me the envelope. "I need you to read this." Inside were legal papers, a property settlement, a formal request for mediation. Attached was a note from her ex-husband's lawyer. He was contesting the terms of their previous divorce agreement, now that Kayla had sold the house. "He's claiming Mom bought it for him too," she said bitterly. "That it was a marital asset, that he's entitled to half the profits." I blinked. "That's insane. They were divorced before she bought it." She nodded. "I know, but he's got time-stamped messages from Mom emails where she said she always meant it to help both of them rebuild." I ran a hand over my face. "She put that in writing." Kayla nodded. She was trying to be generous, or smug, or both. I sighed. "Okay, what do you need from me?" She looked up. "I need you to talk to Mom. Make her testify it was a gift to me, not him." I hesitated. "You know how complicated this is." "I do, but I also know you're the only one she listens to." That night, I told Samantha everything, every word, every paper. She was quiet at first, then said, "And here it is, the next ripple." I nodded. "I don't want to get dragged into their mess again." "But you already are," she said. "The question is, what do you want to do about it?" I sat on the edge of the bed, exhausted. She's my sister, but I also know this is her mess. And she made it with eyes wide open. Samantha sat beside me. "You've spent your whole life cleaning up after them," she said gently. "At some point you have to let them live with their choices, or you'll never fully live with yours." The next morning I called Mom, told her everything, and in predictable fashion she panicked. "Why didn't she tell me he was doing this?" she said. "I can't testify. What if it makes me look like I meddled in their divorce?" I bit back the obvious. "Because you did." "I can't solve this for her," I said. "I've done enough fixing." She went quiet, then finally said something I didn't expect. "You're right." I sat up straighter. "What?" "You're right. she repeated. I shouldn't have said those things. I should have known better. If Kayla wants my support, I'll give it to her, but this is her storm to walk through. For once, she didn't ask me to be the middleman. Kayla fought her battle, and with Mom's reluctant testimony, she won. The judge threw out the claim. Her ex backed off. The money stayed hers. She called me afterward, her voice shaking with relief. I wanted to say, thank you, she said, not just for the call, for everything. I know you've stood between me and consequences more times than I deserved. I didn't say anything right away. Then I'm done standing between people, Kayla, but I'll always stand with the ones who choose growth over pride. She was quiet for a moment. Then I hope someday I deserve that. That night, Samantha and I went for a walk. The air was cool, the sky bruised purple. She took my hand and said, you really meant it, about changing. I looked at her, every bit of it. I believe you, she whispered, but I also need you to know I'm not waiting around to be saved. Not anymore. I've got my own back now. I stopped walking, pulled her close. That's the version of you I fell in love with. She smiled, tired but certain. And this version of you is the one I might finally trust again. Samantha started locking the front door again. That may sound small, but for months, maybe longer, she had stopped doing it. Not because she forgot, but because she'd stopped trusting the idea of home. You don't protect what you don't believe in anymore. So when I came down the stairs one morning and found the bolt clicked into place, I stood there for a moment, just staring at it. Because that lock, that single action, said more than 1,000 reassurances ever could. She was beginning to believe in us again. In me. We took a weekend trip out of town. Nothing big, just a rental cabin near the lake a couple hours away. We left our phones on silent, brought paperbacks, made hot coffee with cinnamon. For the first time in a long while, we weren't recovering from a crisis or trying to fix something. We were just being. One evening after dinner, we sat on the deck wrapped in the same blanket. The sky was filled with stars, crisp, clear, endless. Samantha sipped her wine and said, you know what scared me the most back then? I turned to her, waiting. That you might fight harder for their approval than you ever would for me. I didn't flinch. I knew the truth in that. I used to, I said quietly, because I thought their approval meant I was a good son, a good man, but I see now. I don't need to earn anyone's respect if it costs me my own. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I didn't cry, not then. But later that night when she fell asleep beside me, I stepped out onto the porch and did. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt whole. A few weeks later, we were sitting in our backyard when I got a text from Kayla. Kayla, guess what? I finally got approved for a business loan, launching my own studio next month. I showed Samantha. She smiled, slow and sincere. Maybe she's finally growing into her life. I nodded, or finally choosing it for herself. Then Samantha looked at me with a small grin. Maybe you rubbed off on her. I laughed. I'd like to think so. We started talking about buying a new house ourselves. Not out of envy, not out of some twisted family competition, but because we had outgrown the place where we learned to survive. Samantha said something I won't forget. This house held our pain. Maybe the next one can hold our peace. We called a realtor, started slow, weekend showings, neighborhood drives. Then one day we walked into a 2-story home on a quiet cul-de-sac and something just clicked. The walls were bare, the rooms echoing, but it felt like possibility, like a place where nothing had been betrayed yet. I looked at her and she nodded. This feels like us. Before we moved, Samantha suggested one last dinner, just us and my mother. I raised an eyebrow. You sure? She smiled. I want her to see who we've become, not who we used to be. We met at a small restaurant. My mother came alone, no jewelry, no performative smiles, just herself. She hugged Samantha gently, and for the first time it didn't feel staged. Over the meal we talked about life, work, the future, no digs, no guilt. Then, just before dessert, my mother said, you were right, Samantha. I pushed, I controlled. I wanted to keep Jordan tethered to me because I was afraid to be alone. But I see now. You were the one holding him upright. Samantha didn't gloat. She didn't nod smugly. She just said, thank you. That means more than you know. And that was enough. That night, as we packed the last box in our old home, I looked around the empty living room. This was the place where we almost fell apart, and the place where we found each other again. I turned to Samantha. Ready? She smiled. Yeah, let's go build something new. We moved into the new house on a cloudy morning in late spring. It was quiet, not the kind of silence that feels hollow, but the kind that breathes. The kind that makes you feel like the walls are listening, learning your rhythm, waiting for you to leave your imprint. Samantha stood in the middle of the living room, hands on her hips, eyes scanning the space. "It doesn't even smell like anything yet," she said. I laughed softly. "Give it a few weeks. Coffee, laundry, Sunday breakfasts. It'll start to smell like us." She nodded, turning in a slow circle, soaking it in. "No ghosts here," she whispered. "Just future." We didn't throw a big housewarming party. We didn't post pictures or send mass invites or make it a spectacle. We just called it home. And slowly, day by day, we filled it. With quiet mornings, with soft arguments that ended in laughter, with dinner on mismatched plates and lazy evenings on the floor with old blankets and new movies. The kind of life you rebuild not with declarations, but with consistency. The kind of life that whispers, "We made it." One evening, months later, I found an old shoebox while unpacking a final closet. Inside were printed photos, letters, even a note I'd written to Samantha during our 3rd year of marriage, one she never told me she kept. It read, "I'm still learning how to be the man you deserve, but I want you to know I'm trying. Every day." I sat on the floor holding that note and realized something important. That version of me, scared, passive, eager to please everyone, he had to fall apart for this new life to begin, for this love to grow the way it has. We never really talked about winning anymore. Not about who got what, not about who was right or wrong, not even about the house my mom bought for my sister. Because the moment I chose Samantha fully, the moment I chose us, the scoreboard vanished. And in its place came something better, freedom. Not from my family, not from conflict, but from the need to perform for love. Samantha and I still have our moments. Some mornings are tense, some nights we say too little or too much. That's marriage. But now, when she looks at me, I know she sees a partner, not a diplomat, not a fixer, not a middleman, just a man who learned how to stand beside her for her with her. And that makes all the difference. Sometimes I think about that version of me from a year ago. The one who thought silence was noble, who thought staying out of the way was the same as being loyal. I wish I could sit with him, tell him what I know now. That real loyalty isn't about staying quiet. It's about speaking truth even when it costs you something, especially when it costs you something. And maybe that's the biggest lesson I've learned. That peace doesn't come from avoiding hard choices. It comes from making them clearly, boldly, unapologetically, and standing in the wreckage with your hands out saying, "This is who I choose," again and again. Samantha and I, we're still choosing each other every day. So if you've ever been torn between the people you came from and the person you're becoming, if you've ever watched your silence break someone you love, if you've ever stood at the edge of a choice that felt impossible, I hope this story reminds you, it's not too late to choose better, to speak louder, to love deeper, and to finally fully come home. Thanks for listening. If this story hit close to home, tell us how you would have handled things in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own stories with us here on Ethan's Way. Because sometimes, the hardest decisions make the truest men,